Hello and welcome to Explore Analytics. Today I'm going to show you some places to look when you want to really tailor and configure the look and feel of your dashboards and reports so that they match your corporate brand, attract people's attention to the information that you want them to see, and really streamline and make things look visually pleasing to the user. As you can see, this is an example of an end product where I have a dashboard that has some logos, some scorecards, some annotation, charts that are showing a lot of information in a very clean way. I'm going to point out to you some places where you can configure these sorts of controls. It's not going to go into depth. For that, there are other videos or the wiki as to how step-by-step to go through this, but I really want to give you a breadth of some places that you can look when you're trying to build and configure these just the way you like them. So we'll start by looking at a pivot report. Often with pivot reports, it feels like you just build the report you want and move on, but there's a lot that you can do here to really tailor and configure and make sure that people are seeing things the way that they want to see them. So for example, being able to be very flexible as to what data you're displaying in different arrangements, right? So I could have the years across the top and the quarters on the left, or flip and flop that. Remember, that's the first decision that you're making on how you're showing the user is how much are you going to slice in, how much are you going to slice out from there. Secondly, you can decide whether you want to put this information, into the pivot itself or give people control within that. So for example, from the quarter, I can have drill downs to month. So you can configure different drill down and drill through paths for different fields and columns. So bear that in mind. You may not have to put all of the detail into the report. You can have a simple, streamlined report and give people tools to drill in further into that. Similarly, with the animation, I can create another level of information. So let's say assignment group, and I can use labels to call that what I want. So we'll say team, right? So again, we're presenting this information in a way that's clean and usable rather than having all of these groups in the groupings. Just bear all of these tools in mind as you're building these reports. You can also think about how users are bringing in the information in terms of how they're consuming the actual points of data themselves. So here in the values, we're showing the number of incidents, but I could also put in the values, instead of just the count, I can click display as to say, for example, a % difference from the previous quarter. And that'll give me quarter over quarter. So these, on the field settings, you have a lot in terms of being able to relabel the fields, to be able to configure how it's being displayed and show some of these different ways of presenting the data to the user. So always click on those values and click the pencil icon to explore what's available there. Finally, for these kinds of pivots, you have the ability to click and to add coloring rules. So for example, if I wanted to just simply say anything less than 0, that's a reduction in incidence, so it's green, and anything more than that will have a light red. You can also do different text colors or bold font. So again, just a couple really quick clicks, and now all of a sudden, instead of just looking at this flat series of numbers, I'm very easily able to say these are the points, these are the quarters where we had spikes in our number of incidents. These are the quarters where we had reduction in the number of incidents. So again, these left clicking here and selecting coloring rules is another great way to be able to add some context and really configure how viewers are viewing this data. As another example, you also have the ability to combine some data together. So this is an example of a mashup view. Now, normally we're thinking of mashup view in terms of the types of reports you can build, but remember that this is also a way of showing this information to the users, right? Here we're bringing together information from two different places so that I have one clean report, right, rather than a bar chart of requested hours and a second bar chart of actual hours. I'm using the mashup as a way to show this information in one clean and easy to use interface. And again, you can see these calculations that have colors. This is actually a calculated field. So you can think about another way of thinking about how you're presenting information to the users is whether calculations, configuring things helps attract people to understand the data in a quicker way, right? Obviously, without this variance column, we could figure out whether people are over or under leveraged, but by creating this calculated column, we're making it super easy to see and understand what's going on, especially with that added layer of the colors. These kinds of capabilities are available not only in the pivots, but also you can do things in the charts as well. So the charts, one great place to look for configuration is in these chart settings headers. These chart setting headers, you can allow the user who's viewing the report to configure as well. You can also separate it into bars or area charts, but here I think a line makes the most sense. We have some trend lines, so it's very easy to see where the data is trending. Again, really explore this header to be able to understand some of those visual ways of presenting the data. The other thing that we're doing here in this report is we're showing things with color. You can change the colors on an individual report from the File menu by selecting Chart Colors. We have some pre-defined palettes if you want to use the color rules that are there, or you could, on an individual basis, set the colors for different values within the chart. If you want to define a global color palette so that multiple reports will have the same colors, an admin can select color palettes and you can add a new color palette. We'll call it new palette. And I can select a few colors that I want reports to have. So, this kind of minty green, a dark blue, and say a bright yellow to begin with. So you can kind of create these palettes. You could even make it the default palette, and then a user who's building a report can say, I'd actually like to use our new palette. Very easily show that information in the colors you want. You can see that dark blue and that mint that I selected are now here in the chart. The kind of information that's in this report, this kind of trend information, we also have another way of being able to show through something that we call scorecards. Scorecards would allow you to present the same information in kind of a summary, easy to show view. So we'll take a look at this cost per contact example. So this is showing, what the cost per contact is. This is another calculated metric that we've been, tracking a trend of. And we have here, this is the trend line. It's been sort of even, but, overall starting to trend downwards. I can very easily see if it's going up or down and how much that has changed in that period. But by selecting this Edit Scorecards, I have here the ability to configure a lot of information, and I also, with this Style button, can configure it. So let's suppose instead of having our default color, I'd like to have, let's say, a very light gray, something that's almost white but white. And then instead of a background, we don't want any background at all. So now I have here a very light background around my item. I also have the ability to reorganize any of these or color them just by selecting these different items. So for example, if I wanted the main indicator to be a different color, I could do it by fixed color, by a coloring rule, by improvement or not improvement, or I could just manually say, let's make this a really dark green because that fits in with our corporate style guide, and now I have that color. Same with the up-down indicators. We have here available, you could have it display as a triangle as well. You can also configure the positioning. So I could select the spark line and say actually where I want that is above the main indicator, and now the trend line will be at the top and the information will be below. Again, a lot of configurability here in terms of what you're showing and how you're showing it, and then you can put together multiple of these scorecards into something like this scorecard group. Here, the scorecards are using something that we call our single line format. It forces multiple of the scorecards all into this consistent single line layout. It has a coloring rule, so it's showing how good the metric is based on with the colors that are behind it, and you can very easily show this to users. Once you have these reports and pivots and scorecards all configured the way that you want them, you can package them together and display them to users using these dashboards. So these are multi-tab dashboards. You can see here I have your scorecard group on one tab. On the second tab, a series of pivots and charts, with these drop downs to be able to show all of them based on different data. Or, as we saw at the very beginning of the video, this kind of a dashboard, which in addition to bringing together all these elements, also has the ability to add images or text, as we saw before, tabs. And for any of these, you have a really easy ability to shift where they are in the layout and configure the look and feel. So this allows you to really pull this all together and have this be in one consistent user interface, and really have it be tailored the way that people want. As you can see with this dashboard, viewers are able to quickly see information, see if it's good or bad or indifferent, see trends on where we're going in terms of the data, be able to, as they're viewing, decide that they want to see something in a different way themselves. And really, just by using these drop downs and these drag and drops and these click throughs, to be able to drill down and drill through and get more information. So as you're building your reports and packaging together, keep in mind all the tools that we've been through, and think, are you using these to really create a rich, informative, and visual approach to the data? If you want more information, you can always go to the Explore Analytics Wiki or view some of our other videos. If you have ideas of other ways that this could be configured visually, you can always reach out to contact our technical support. We're always interested in hearing feedback. Good luck, and we look forward to seeing a lot of visually rich and beautiful reporting from you all.